a big weekend as we approach the August 3rd deadline, and I couldn't be, I guess, more happy for those two guys. Not to be able to go through the process, to go through the many multiple interviews that they both did, to experience that, to go through the interview process, and really find out as much information about their position as we could be. I was very, very hands off in this process, as I have always been. So I gave those guys their space to do their deal. We're obviously in tremendous contact with a lot of the same people that they were talking to, but you involve family, you involve a constant commitment to trying to make the best decision, the best educated decision that you can make, and both those young men came to that decision, and along the way, the Illini Nation and our basketball program gets to benefit from those two young men returning, and I think it's it speaks volumes in terms of both their commitments, both the amount of success that they have had wearing the orange and blue, that they're in that position. We've said many times when we came to Illinois that we were going to recruit pros and guys that had next level opportunities, and both those young men are going to play in that league. Both of them are going to have opportunities, and it's about the time has to be right to go do that. And along the way, our program has continued to take steps in regards to those two. They've been instrumental in that, and I don't want to just single those two out. It's been very much a team effort, buying into our culture. But those two young men have done that and been a big part of that. So we're excited. It was fun to see our fans get so excited, and deservedly so. And the Illini Nation is special. It's what makes it one of the elite programs in the country, and we're excited that we're going to bring back what I think is the best guard in the country in Dosunmu. He's going to have every opportunity to prove that night in and night out, and then we've got an opportunity to see the Big Ten Freshman of the Year become a sophomore and take that natural progression. And at times, we know Kofi was dominant, and I'm looking forward to seeing that as a sophomore. So, it's been a long, hard process because of COVID for those guys, and I think there were different challenges for us as a coaching staff, but at the end of the day, we were never going to fill their scholarships. They were always going to have a scholarship here. If both of them had gone and committed to the NBA, we would have had two open scholarships, and I believe wholeheartedly in doing that. And we wanted to make sure that as long as they were still an amateur athlete and committed to us, we were going to be committed to them. So they're back, and we'll expect them back into Champaign in the near future, and joining the rest of our guys as we get ready for the start of school and what should be a fun group to work with and a very exciting year.
Okay, Scott Ritchie, you can get us started.
Hey, Brad, I guess I'm just curious, what has maybe driven your thought process to being hands-off, with guys making draft decisions?
Yeah, I that may not be totally – I think there's a process that they have to go through, and I think that for them it's about gathering information, and it's putting your people in the know. And in Io's case, it was his family. and very similar with Kofi. So I don't want to step on their toes. We're getting a lot of the same feedback, and yet both of those young men did ask, and then I gave him my feedback, as I did with Io after his freshman year. So it's a process that I don't want clouded vision. I don't want them thinking one way. I want them to know that I'm here 100% to support them in whatever choice they make. And unfortunately, this past season, if Io had done what I thought he would do in the NCAA tournament and the Big Ten tournament, we don't know if this scenario would have happened or not. And I'd be the first one to tell him he needs to go, as I would be with anybody. So it's about them gathering information and making a decision based on them. And then I always wanted to step in when I was asked and when the time was coming up before their decision. And up until that point, there wasn't anything for me to really hinder their thought process with.
I guess maybe going from a situation just even a few days ago where it was 50-50 for both of them, whether they come back or go to stay in the draft, how does that change things for you now moving forward, preparing for the season where now what your team is fully going to look like?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the great challenges. That's one of the COVID 2020 problems is, there were so many unknowns, and I've got a bunch of ideas right here on my desk that included Kofi, not Io, included neither one of them. Having both of them back, is some things that that we'll have to change and look at. But we've got time for that, and we're excited about that. But I really haven't done any basketball stuff here in the last month in terms of trying to figure all of that out. Let's get to this point, and now we can move forward with what is known, and that is our roster.
Thank you.
Okay, done with Scott. We'll go to Derek Piper next, and then Joey Wagner, you're on deck.
Coach, you mentioned COVID 2020 problems. One of the things about having a great team is you have maybe quote unquote problem and just figuring out roles. And I know you talked about a lot about that last year. Is that was one thing you really liked, is having roles defined. Well, you slot Io back into that backcourt, and with Curbelo, with Miller, Trent, Hutch, DeMonte. How do you make that all work? I know you got time to figure it out, but how do you see that?
Yeah, that's exciting. And I think as we have seen a little bit, Derek, with the bubble, with the NBA, we have seen it with the TBT. I think you can fully expect to play games this year without your full roster. So I think depth becomes a big part of this, and how that works. Playing time always works itself out on the court, and depth, and I am excited, man. I can't wait for practice, because we're gonna have some incredibly competitive practices. So our guys have worked really hard this summer, and there's a great chemistry that I really have admired this summer to this point. So we've got a little time to figure all that out, but again, I think it's going to be a real advantage to have depth as this season moves forward.
I know we talked a lot about how much Io cares about where this program is headed, and how much he's taken on is trying to be a trailblazer and get you back to where you should be. When you hear him say, "I'm coming back to win a national title," what goes through your mind?
Yeah, young man, that you got to understand that I have so much respect for Io and his sacrifice, his level of commitment, and who would I be to not agree with that? I know how hard he works. I mean, here's a kid who's first team All Big Ten in what was the best conference in the country. He's arguably going to be the best guard in the country returning, or he's going to be in that conversation. he knows what we have around him, and he truly believes that in the bottom of his heart. And so, we're a long ways from that point, but I love guys who dream big and or dream bigger. I love guys that want to think it's all possible. So there's a lot of commitment and sacrifice in that, and Io has done that, and so I have tremendous respect for what he's saying.
Hey, Brad, it seems like during the offseason, Io had mentioned he was 99.9% locked into the NBA draft. And when did you maybe did you get an inkling at any point over the course of the last week or so that maybe he was leaning into that 0.1% and coming back? And can you maybe paint a picture of what that night looked like for you and kind of how that played out and wherever you were?
Well, Io's commitment to do something is the reason he can say that he wants to win a national championship, because he's fully committed to that. And when Io puts his mind to something, he's going to be fully committed to that. And again, that's why I left him alone in the process. I knew that he was conducting a lot of interviews, that he was working out multiple times a day. So I left him alone with that. And yet as he and I have that relationship, and as this decision was coming near, as we got closer to August 3rd, he had always said we were going to sit down and have a conversation, and we had that conversation, and with his family, and up until that point, I was 100% believing in him that he was going to be in the NBA, and that's until that meeting happened, that's where I was at with it.
And you mentioned last year, Brad, when that you weren't going to hide or run from expectations. I would assume the same to be this year. But where does that? Is there an experience that you've had with expectations that you kind of built this philosophy of embracing these and leaning into them, or is it just kind of how you've always been?
Yeah, it won't bother me. I'm going to make sure it doesn't bother our guys. I mean, and I think the one thing that happens is you've got to tune out all the outside noise, and I like guys who have a little brazen attitude and a little swagger about them, and that, to me, that's important. But there is a difference between being a hunter and being the hunted. And you've got to stay hungry. You've got to stay challenged. That's what's changed for us. And so we'll work through that. I've got a good amount of experience doing that, and we'll stay very dialed in and very focused. And instead of thinking we're good, we're going to show everybody by working hard.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll go next to Brett Barron's.
Coach, I'm curious, as you start to formulate a plan here now, what will that look like in terms of having all of these players playing time? I know you said that'll work itself out, but how will you and your staff go about that in the next month or so, and trying to decide how you will schematically go about this season with all?
Yeah, and again, I think that one of the things that I had determined early on was I'd like to play a little faster than we did last year. I think that with the addition of guys to our lineup and to our roster, I think that we had an unusually tough year shooting the ball last year. I think that'll be behind us. I think we'll be able to shoot the ball better. So I want to play faster. I think there's a lot of minutes out there for a lot of guys with increased pace. We'll see what the X's and O's part of it looks like. I think that one of the biggest challenges, Brett, that I'm fighting now is, what our preseason looks like. And, is there going to be a start on time and some of those challenges, but we'll know soon enough on that. But in the meantime, we're going to plan on being in great shape, because I do want to play a little more up tempo, a little faster. We'll see what all those changes mean on the defensive end. We got some things in mind. that were awfully good for us last year, but we've got to tweak some things on that end as well.
I know you put out a statement, but I haven't had a chance to ask you on camera yet. The impact Lou meant for you, and you will leave with, being the head coach here at Illinois, what he meant for you.
Well, he's a reason I wanted to be here. And I say that from the standpoint that, it was it's pretty cool. And I mean that in today's world, when you're sitting in your office and a guy that you met many, many years before in 1989 calls you out of the blue and says, "Hey, I love the way you play defense." And, and then we just talked, and then he called me again when I was at Oklahoma State, and all along, my expectation for Illinois basketball has always been it's one of the best programs in the country, and to have the guy who put all that together for the most part, and I'm not saying there was a lot of really good players prior to, but in the modern day, and the success. And knowing how many people he touched, not just players, but in the community, that's pretty special. And I'm really, really glad to be the basketball coach at Illinois at a place where, there was a Hall of Fame coach who touched so many.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll go to Lauren. If you got a question, I'm unmuting you, so I'm asking you to unmute. If you know how to do that, then you're up.
My question would be, talk about the 4 position and how many options you have there and whether you can play a guard there.
To answer your question, yes, we can play a guard there. And I think you will see that. But I think you've got, we've obviously had a good amount of success with DeMonte Williams there. I'm really excited about Jacob Grandison and what he brings at that spot. A high IQ guy, a guy that's got a great motor. Coleman Hawkins, an elite passer and shooter, gives us a different version of that at 6'10". He is what I would say is your consummate stretch 4 that can really shoot it. We'll see a much improved Georgie if we want to play big, and then I think at times you could even see a guy like Austin, at 6'6", 6'7", become a threat. And you're talking about an elite shooting player there that can do some different things. So, I think we've got a variety of options, and I think we can play 4 guards, which was awfully good to us last year, and can do that predominantly with Kofi being in there to help protect the rim. So I think you'll see a variety of things, Lauren, and that really excites me. I see a tremendous amount of depth and different skill set at that spot.
Go ahead.
Okay, next we'll go to Jeremy Werner, and I'll get back to my lineup stuff. Gavin, you're going to be on deck.
Hey, Brad. Hope you're well. Following up on Joey's question, you had a team at Kansas State that was top 5 coming into the season. Is there anything you learned from that team about handling expectations and all that?
Yeah, I think one of the things that team we'd come off at. I think one of the things that was big there is we lost a point guard. And we were still really good, but we lost a young man in Denny Clemente, and we had Jacob pulling, and Jacob slid positions and became a primary ball handler. And that team, even though we won some games early, that team struggled a little bit. And we played Duke early in a battle of 2 top 5 teams, and of course that was before Kyrie got hurt, and they got us. And then we knew we had to make some changes, and so I'm not going to be afraid to make changes, but the one thing I like a lot about our group is the continuity piece. And when you bring these two guys back, it kind of reminds me of some old school basketball teams at the collegiate level where you get a lot of guys back, and then you do add 3, or 4 talented young freshmen. And but the continuity, the knowing what it's like to go on the road, knowing what it's like to play in big games, that excites me. So we'll play on that a little more. But I do know this: we've got to be tougher than we ever have been. We've got to execute better than we ever have been. And now consistency becomes first and foremost, because every night out, we're going to be that team with the bullseye on our back, and everybody's going to be out there to try to beat us. And great teams handle that piece of it. So we're going to strive for that from day one.
Brad, I know fans were nervous waiting for this, and you can give them their space, and I know you want what's best for your kids and you like your roster. But for you personally, knowing what this means for your season, for your program, what was this like for you just waiting on these decisions?
Yeah, Jeremy, I'll tell you, it's all I wanted was for them to make the best decisions that benefited them for life. And so you want that for them. And no matter what those decisions are, I've come to the point where I'm good with those decisions. Now I can be really, really excited for our fans. When you take over a job, you dream of getting it to this point where you have guys in Io's stature that are NBA guys, but they come back and they're upperclassmen, and they get to play. They get to play at their peak against their peers, if that makes sense. I mean, Io's now 2-3 years into this in the weight room and stronger, and he gets to do that against his peers. And so that becomes a huge factor. And now you see Trent, you see DeMonte now as seniors, and both of them, for the most part, 4-year starters. And now Georgie's a junior, and Kofi's no longer a freshman. So it kind of reminds me of an old school team, and I'm excited for our fans. And deep down, this is what you were looking at when you took the job. This is where you can be, and I'm excited about that.
Thanks, Brad.
Hey,
Okay,
Brad.
we'll go to Gavin and Nico. You're on deck.
Good to see you, Brad.
Hi, Gavin.
It's been a pretty consequential last few days for the Big Ten as far as high-profile players returning. You think of Garza, you think of course, Io and Kofi, and Aaron Henry from Michigan State. Just what's your reaction to these guys coming back to a conference that, really beat up on itself last year, and what that means for you guys going forward?
Maybe better this year. This league may be better this year. And I think it's very realistic. I like to throw Rutgers in that mix with what they've got back. I think you could see a Michigan team that's very talented. But I think you got 5-6 teams that at the top that are all good enough to win a national championship. And I think the league gets better. I love the fact that it was great last year. We'll see what continues to happen with COVID as we move forward. But again, I do think it's going to be a year where we can see a positive test or two during the season, and it's a team that has depth that could ultimately win. Maryland's going to be very good. You just go right on down the list, and so I think the league will be better, and we'll I can remember last year at game 13 thinking, taking a deep sigh and going, wow, when does this get over? And you still had 7 more to go, and they were all grinds. And it's great for the fans. It's great for college basketball. And I'm looking forward to that. But the league will be better than ever.
As a competitor, does that, seeing guys like Garza, who was AP Player of the Year, return, does that hype you up as a competitor, or does it fill you with some dread knowing you have to go against them?
No, I'm like all our players. You want to play against the best. And, they just happen to be in our league. So I'm excited as heck for him to be back. I mean, there was a guy that probably dominated college basketball like very few other players did last year. And to see Aaron Henry come back and to know what Michigan State has, and you got Wisconsin back with all 5 starters that are all seniors. Wow. You start right there. And again, I love what Steve has done at Rutgers, and Geo Baker arguably was as good as Io at closing games, and so this is going to be the best league in the country. And every night, you better be tough-minded, and you better be you better bring your backpack because you're going to have to work.
Thanks, Brad.
Okay, we'll go to Nico and Jim Matson. You're on deck.
Brad, just looking back to a few seasons ago after your first year, you had that overhaul of the roster. Did you have a timeline in place of when you thought you could get a team this talented together heading into the season? Did you know how long that process might take to get this kind of caliber team together?
Well, I think again, I think, Nico, the one thing that needs to be mentioned here is how good my staff is. And in terms of recruiting, I think the one thing that you are always a little bit unsettled with is pros. And when you guys know, you go out and you recruit a 4-star or 5-star kid, or somebody develops and has a great year and they go pro, you don't know today how long you're going to have them. But I thought it would be, I knew year 2 would be really tough. It's hard to win at this level with new guys and with freshmen. And we made a nice jump, and again, that's a tribute to our staff and the job they've done recruiting. And now you've got your culture laid, your foundation, and hopefully that good players want to keep playing at Illinois, and we're going to keep recruiting them. And I just think it's the positive momentum of last year is continuing to help. So I don't know if I had a timeline. All I wanted to do is get the best players and keep working without taking shortcuts, without doing it, without taking a bunch of transfers and doing it that way. We've kind of tried to build this with freshmen and quality young men, and we've been able to do that.
You always talk about how great every Big Ten arena is and how big of a crowd impact there can be league-wide. Have you had any thoughts on, when you watch some NBA games, watch some of the TBT, of maybe trying to run some practices a little differently, maybe not pumping in some crowd noise early on, just kind of getting used to what could be a quiet winter?
I don't know if we've gotten that far yet. I mean, it will definitely be different. It will definitely be different. And I think that's one of the things that excites me about the NBA is, now you have 7-game series with no travel, no home court advantage, no real adrenaline rushes. And we'll see. We've got a lot of time, Nico, between now and then. Hopefully there's a vaccine. Hopefully everybody wears masks, and we can whip this and fans can come see this. But I know we've got great marketing staff, and if it's crowd noise we need, we'll get it figured out between now and the start of practice.
Thanks, Brad.
Okay, we'll go to Jim Matson and then Scott Beatty. You're on deck.
Hey, Coach Underwood, in particular, be as specific as you want. What will you tell Io and Kofi that they can improve on this year? What kind of individual things do you think both of them can improve?
Well, I'll just state the obvious from just the stat sheet. I won't get into what those discussions have been about. I think we'll see a major jump with Io in shooting the basketball from the 3-point line. I think we'll see a more consistent Kofi. I think those are just two things that that we've talked about amongst other things. but again, that's a freshman that is going to be a sophomore, and now he knows what it's like to go into East Lansing or wherever, and the line moving back last year was a change for everybody. It was down nationally. Io has shot hundreds of thousands of balls at now the NBA line in preparation of the workouts he's done. So he'll be much more comfortable there. So I don't worry about that. But those are just a couple things.
On a more personal level, I think during the TBT you revealed you'd lost a lot of weight. Can you update us on that, and how did you lose all that weight?
Yeah, healthy eating and a ton of walking. We've been very consistent here with our walking and our exercise, and so I started this journey at about 268 pounds. I had somewhere between 3 and 4 chins, depending on how which daughter you ask. But so we were at 234.6 yesterday. So we got another 15 to 20 to go. So trying to get down to 220.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to Scott Beatty next, and then Mark Pearson, you're on deck.
Checking in at 185. Coach, congratulations on these returns. You've already talked quite a bit now about playing time. My question is, do you have to have discussions with your team about calibrating their expectations for being on the floor, and especially in that backcourt?
I don't ever have those. That stuff works itself out. And again, I think one of the things that we're going to try to do is play fast or faster without turning the ball over. I think it benefits this group. And again, you're talking about, in reality, guys, 5 guys who've never worn the orange and blue. And I throw Jacob in there with Austin, and then the 3 freshmen, and so it's there's always a learning curve, and when I say it works itself out, but I want guys to have high expectations, and I want them to continue to work. And those freshmen have been so impressive this summer, just in the questions they've asked, their effort in terms of how hard they've worked. I've been excited about, and we all know that they're all talented. Now it's it's amped up once we get everybody on the court. So not concerned about it at all.
And then what do you expect out of Io and Kofi in terms of their leadership on and off the floor? I know you talked a lot about it last year with what Io brought as a leader. Does that need to take any kind of jump?
Oh, always. I don't think you ever get complacent in a role of leadership. I think you always have to find ways to challenge yourself. I think you can always become better at what you do. And now as a junior, and I'll use his relationship with Adam. I mean, he's got a relationship that goes back to high school. He can help make those guys' life simpler, and stepping into that father figure role as an upperclassman is really, really important. And yet it's their job as well to help follow the lead Io set. The one thing that is great about Io and Kofi is they both work. And you add Trent, DeMonte, our culture is established, and those young guys have to do that. And it's Georgie, it's all those guys that raise those guys' levels. So leadership never stops, and they'll both be much improved and striving for new goals.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to Mark Pearson, and then Robert, you're on deck.
Hey, Coach, hope all's well with you and your family. Everybody staying safe. Along with the distractions that this team has to deal with COVID, with just all the outside noise now coming in, how does a coaching staff try to just make the players hone in on the season at hand and just getting prepared for the season at hand instead of listening to everything else and possibly, the COVID talks as well?
Well, I think one of the things that isn't going away is COVID, and I mean we're going to continually talk about that as we come across university guidelines, and there's so many factors there that are constantly changing and that are unknown. So, but the one thing that we always talk about is, and again, we have the saying everyday guys, and it's being accountable and responsible to those guys in the locker room and the coaching staff. And when you show up to do your job, you're going to have to do it at a very, very high level. And we'll talk about the competitiveness we have. The outside noise, I think we've been able to handle for the most part. It's always an adjustment for a freshman. Again, that's where leadership, that's where we have an unbelievable staff here that talks and communicates and helps guys learn and educate them through that process of especially the social media platforms that can be very active. So we'll help them through all that. But I want them to have an awareness of what people think. There's some value in that, and we'll keep to our values and our culture, and that's we'll never stray too far from that when it's in the locker room.
And then just one follow-up to that, Coach. As far as COVID goes, working out players in the offseason has obviously looked quite a bit different. Do you expect there to be a little bit more maybe slower growing period for some of the freshmen coming in, knowing that some of the workouts have changed in the offseason?
Yeah, I don't know how much different it will look like. We've always spent a lot of time in the summer on the individual side of things. The improvement side, taking care of the guys' weaknesses. Freshmen, it's more a learning curve. It's getting adjusted to Fletch in the weight room. So we've kept it very basic throughout the majority of the summer. Last summer was a little bit different because of the trip to Italy, and the practices. But for the most part, we're staying pretty status quo. We're trying to make everything competitive. We're not doing anything from a competitive standpoint, live 5-on-5 stuff yet, but we've got plenty of time for that.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Robert Rosenthal next, and Matthew Stevens, you're on deck.
Hey, Coach, I want to kind of build on what Nico said there. So let's go back to January of 2019. You're 6-15. Second season, you're 20-33 overall. Fast forward 18 months, and I was looking up the stats last night. Yahoo has you 9th preseason, NBC Sports 9th, CBS Sports moved you to 6th last night with all the news. So did you see this coming? Did you see 18 months from 6-15 to preseason number 6?
Well, I don't know where expectations stop. I expected us to be good. And I think that, I came here with the mindset of winning Big Ten championships. And when you win those, you're obviously going to be in the conversations at the national level. So, I think I expected to be here from a culture standpoint, I expected our talent level to be where we did have pros. The chemistry piece, I could honestly say I was probably a bit surprised that, we're in the last week of the year last year playing for the league championship. But again, I think that's a tribute to the culture. And I think that's a tribute to the character. And, last year was still a very, very young basketball team. So, expectations can be a little bit dangerous, but I think the one thing that we're excited about is that our culture, our talent is meeting the goals and the expectations that I had when I came here. And the ranking stuff, that's all fluff. That's stuff for the fans. But the rest of it, I love where we're at.
So when you had your initial conversations with Josh Whitman, did you talk about that kind of rebuild? Like, I like to rebuild a culture and it might be rough for a bit. And, what did you have that conversation about length of time to build what you want to have?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have conversations about that. Josh never gave me a specific time frame. I just told him we were going to build it. We were going to try to do it with young kids, and there's a learning curve in there, and sometimes that there weren't going to be any shortcuts. We were going to build it the right way in terms of what I thought was the right way, and you've got to hit those speed bumps before you can be great. And Io was a big piece. Trent and DeMonte have fit and been able to be 4-year starters and have great careers to this point. And Andres Feliz was the perfect fit and the right piece in terms of his leadership and his experience. So again, a lot of credit to our staff for their job recruiting, but I think it's been done in a way that I feel it needed to be done, and it's just a natural maturation, a natural process. Nothing's been sped up saying, hey, we're taking all transfers or we're doing this or that. We've kind of stuck to it, and we haven't varied from it. And again, it's been nice to see those results.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll go to Matt, and then Rob, you're on deck.
Brad, you've talked about it before with all the veterans coming back, not only in this league but in the sport. And I'm just curious if I'm wrong in assuming that these early season games, these early November games, these exempt tournaments, even the early Big Ten games you have in December, is it wrong to assume that the level of play would go up in those types of games and be less sloppy because teams aren't figuring themselves out? They kind of know what they are, at least from a veteran leadership standpoint.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great. I'll go back year 2 when we were in Maui. That's pretty scary when you're going over there with a brand new team in that field. Same type of scenario now. We're a little bit older and we're experienced, and the value that you put on experience is second to none. We put this schedule together for a reason. I've never run from scheduling. We're always going to play good people, and you can't. It is an advantage to have guys back, to have that continuity, to have that feel. You hope there's less mistakes, less sputtering, less lack of identity of what your roles are. You have the ability to establish some of those things a little bit quicker when you've got experience.
And follow up, can I ask you about having Tyler back for one more year? Is he geeked about it? How does Dad feel about having him back for one more season?
He's fired up, and so am I. I mean, I've said it many times. I'm blessed when I get to walk out to practice every day, and I don't care what social distancing has. And all the high fives. Still get to dap my son up every day, and I'm excited for him academically. He's got a master's degree that he finished in June, and now to go back into the Geese School of Business, and I'm elated for him, and he's excited. He loves to play, and he's passionate about it and committed to it, and so it was. I appreciate you asking. He was pretty fired up, and so am I.
Thanks, Brad.
Okay, we'll go to Rob, and then Jim Cotter, you're on deck.
Brad, between positionless basketball and a traditional 1 through 5, where are you most deep in the positions, and do you foresee playing, say, if Kofi gets into foul trouble, do you foresee playing more positionless basketball when he's not on the floor?
Yeah, great question. I think we've got a lot of options, and I think that's one of the things that we've talked about a lot as a staff. Minus Kofi, what does this thing look like? And that means with him not on the court now because he is coming back. So I think you've got a variety of options, and I think you can you could probably get really small and slide Coleman in as a pick and pop 5. You could do some things with Georgie. You could you can get really big if you want to get really big. In terms of a Io, Austin, Adam. You could get a lot of options. So the thing I really admire about this team is their skill set and their versatility. And Kofi is who Kofi is. The rest of our guys have some versatility in terms of the movement and the places they can play on the court. And we're going to see a guy in Kofi who's going to have an expanded range. He's proven he's a very good 15 to 17 foot shooter, and he's worked very hard at that. So I love the versatility of this group. So I don't know what that looks like yet because we haven't had them all together, Rob, but you could see a lot of different things.
Do you have any idea? You talked about playing faster, so that means more minutes for more guys. Do you have any idea? Are you giving yourself that headache of trying to dole out PT yet?
No, I'm still living off the high of those guys coming back, and we'll see we'll see. We got a couple of freshmen in there that we're really excited about, and we'll see how their development is. And Austin and Jacob haven't worn the uniform yet. So, but I'm excited at the fact that we have a lot of options.
Yeah. Thanks, Brad.
Okay, we'll go to Jim now, and then Alec, you're on deck.
Hey, Brad, you mentioned that Io had put up a lot of shots in the last few months. He mentioned yesterday that through those last few months, he was preparing to face NBA players. Now that he's coming back, that can't do more than just help him in his quest to achieve greatness, correct?
Absolutely. The one thing you never have to worry about Io is his there's sacrifice in Io to become great, and all the great ones have that, and Io's got a different place that he gets to, and his 100% or 99.9% commitment to the NBA, that just shifts now. He's got a new focus, and so that will carry over to the University of Illinois basketball and to his continued improvement. And that's one thing I don't have to worry about. We're going to see a very, very good Io and a guy that has got a mental approach that is continuing to grow and really be, I think one of the elite mental minds in college basketball.
And Brad, to follow up on that, yesterday when Io was talking to us, he seemed very, very proud to play for the state school, and that probably just, is even more so a good sign that he's coming back, just for him to have his pride in playing for Illinois for the state school, correct?
Well, I think, Jim, the one thing that Io's never wavered on is his love for Illinois and his commitment to helping us achieve the greatest success we can while he's here. And you look at the turnaround. The learning curve as a freshman. I think he was our leading scorer as a freshman to the what was set up to be a great run as a sophomore, and obviously COVID has put a damper on that. And getting back to the NCAA tournament and doing all that, we were an NCAA tournament team, and now to take that next step, here's a guy that's very driven and he's very motivated. So it's an advantage us when you've got a guy like that who's that motivated and works that hard, and that becomes a factor that carries over to his teammates as well.
Thanks, Brad.
Okay, we'll go to Alec then, and then Brandon, you're on deck if you'll have anything.
Hey, Brad, congratulations on the weight loss. You spoke a little bit about, how impressed you've been by the freshmen asking questions. during practice and workouts. But on the court, how impressive have they been, or what stood out the most about their success so far?
Yeah, and again, I think, Alec, the one thing we've done has been very basic. It's all been really skill work. From a competitive standpoint, they're extremely competitive with each other. We've got Adam and Curbelo in the same group, and having the shooting contest and free throw contest and those things. You love their competitive fire. They only have one speed, which is go hard, which I like. We don't have to prod them to get going. And Coleman's been in a group that is, with guys that are leading him and helping him, and he's had days where he's shot the cover off of it. So again, very basic, very limited to this point. They're picking up terminology. We've worked a ton at this point just on individual stuff, not getting trying to get too far ahead, and that'll pick up here as we move forward.
Sorry, last year you spoke a lot about how much Kofi helped Jermaine develop throughout the season. He's going to have an opportunity to do that with Brandon. How much do you think that's going to help Brandon going into the future of having to go against someone that's big and physical and talented as Kofi is?
Well, Brandon may not think that real early, but you don't run into that every day. You don't run into 7 foot, 290 pounds, and can move and do the things that he can do. And it probably goes back to to Jermaine and how good Jermaine was at the end of the year, just simply because it was an offensive game that had developed playing against 290 pounds every day. It was at the other end of the court trying to figure out how to get a rebound when you go against 290 pounds. And you just, when you see it every day, you learn to figure it out and conform your game around that. So again, Brandon's been extremely impressive. He works extremely hard. He's eaten up the weight room and Fletch. So he'll get better every single day when you go against Kof. There's no doubt about that.
Thank you.
Okay, Brandon, you're up, and that'll.
Yep. All right. Hey, Brad. So how do you think playing alongside Adam and Andre will help Ayo grow this upcoming season?
Yeah, I think to be determined a little bit. I've seen Adam and Ayo obviously in high school together. I think the one thing that Dre provides is an elite passer, an elite pitch ahead guy who can really play in the open court. And it gives you tremendous versatility with all three of those guys being able to do things with the ball, being able to do things in ball screens, being able to get a rebound and push it while the other two get out and run. And, that excites me a bunch. And that's why I think that we can play fast. I think we get in transition, very similar to what we did last year. Ayo would get a rebound and take off and go. And Ayo was number 3 in the country in points in transition. And we scored 657 points in transition. That number I want to go up. That still put us in the 97th percentile. So all those guys can do all of that. Hutch can do that. DeMonte can do that. Trent can do that. So I think it speaks volumes for us to be able to play with each other and have guys who have not just great ball handling skills, but passing and shooting skills.
Thanks. That's all I have.
All righty. Thanks, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. I'm going to conclude this call now. Thanks, Coach, for your time and taking everybody's questions.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it.